Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. When we think about coins, many people simply see them as everyday objects, small pieces of metal we use for transactions, for buying little things, for giving change or collecting in jars. But in reality, every single coin has its own story, its own design, its own weight, its own history, and sometimes even its own mysterious worth that can shock people all around the world. One such coin that has been making waves in the collector's world is the 1998 D Lincoln cent, also called the 1-cent coin, struck in Denver with the D mint mark. This coin is fascinating because at first glance it looks like any other penny, something you could easily overlook in your pocket or maybe even drop on the ground without a thought. But deep inside the coin world, this particular year and mint mark has stories that collectors, historians, and numismatists love to discuss. The weight of the 1998 D Lincoln cent is around 2.5 grams because by 1982 the United States Mint had already changed the composition of the penny from copper to a copper-plated zinc, meaning that the coin is mostly zinc inside, about 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper plating on the outside, which gives it that reddish color and shine that people associate with pennies. The design features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, the front of the coin, and on the reverse you can see the Lincoln Memorial, with a tiny image of the statue of Lincoln visible if you look closely inside the memorial. This design has been iconic for decades, reminding people of American history and Lincoln's legacy. The coin symbol is simple. It is the D Mint mark, which stands for Denver Mint, where the coin was struck. The Denver Mint has been one of the key production facilities for U.S. coins, and pennies from this mint carry that small D mark right below the year, which in this case is 1998. Many times people ignore the mint mark, but for collectors it can make a huge difference in value and rarity because different mints produce different quantities, and sometimes quality control issues or striking errors occur at one mint but not at another. In the case of the 1998 D cent, there have been rumors and reports of certain rare varieties, error strikes, or unique conditions that have pushed the value of some coins into astronomical ranges. Some collectors even claim that particular versions or rare examples of this coin could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on their condition, grading, and uniqueness. Now, the fascinating part that gets everyone excited is the claim that one particular example of the 1998 D Lincoln cent has been valued at around $209 million. Which sounds unbelievable at first because how could a penny, a simple 1-cent piece, be worth so much? But that is where the magic of the numismatic world lies. You see, the value of coins is not just in the face value printed on them, but rather in the rarity, the story, the condition, and sometimes the errors that make them different from the rest. A penny that weighs slightly off, that has a double die, a mistrike, a unique coloration, or any flaw that makes it different from billions of other pennies can become something that collectors chase with obsession. The story spreads, the demand grows, and the prices can skyrocket in auctions. It has happened with many coins before, like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, and others that reached legendary status in the coin market. When people hear about such a high valuation, like $209 million for a 1998 D penny, it sparks curiosity and doubt, because how can that be possible? But the truth is the collector's market is full of surprises. Sometimes ultra-wealthy collectors, museums, or institutions are willing to pay astronomical sums for a piece that has history, rarity, or fame attached to it. For a coin like the 1998 D cent, if it has a combination of rarity, a unique error, pristine condition graded by an authority like PCGS or NGC, and enough hype around it, its auction value could reach into the unimaginable range. Some say this particular penny became so famous because it was discovered in a flawless mint state, possibly even in a special error strike category, and collectors competed fiercely to own it. The bidding wars and auctions often push prices far beyond what normal logic would expect, and once a record is set, the coin's fame continues to grow. Talking about history, the Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the Indian head cent and became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, breaking the old tradition of using symbolic figures. Victor David Brenner designed the coin, and his initials VDB can be found on certain early issues. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent went through changes, especially in the reverse design, shifting from wheat ears from 1909 to 1958, then to the Lincoln Memorial from 1959 to 2008, and later to the Union Shield design starting in 2010. So the 1998 D cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse era, a period of almost 50 years where billions of pennies were struck with the memorial design. Despite billions being minted, some stand out due to their condition, proof status, or error varieties. For example, proof coins from 1998 struck at the San Francisco Mint with cameo finishes are especially desirable. But the Denver Mint circulation strikes also carry surprises, and among them, the 1998 D is noted for being part of an era when certain double die obverse and close AM reverse varieties were discovered. The close AM variety means that the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse side is close together, a feature that should only appear on proof coins, but accidentally made its way onto circulation strikes. Such varieties can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the grade, the weight of 2.5 grams, and the small 19mm diameter may not seem like much, but these technical details are important because they help authenticate genuine coins from counterfeits. In the world of high-value coins, counterfeits and fakes are a real problem. Scammers try to alter common coins to make them look like rare varieties, but precise weight, metal composition, and expert grading help protect buyers and collectors. The 1998 D cent, when authentic and certified by major grading companies, becomes a secure piece of history, and its market value depends heavily on that certification. A coin graded as MS68 or MS69 by PSGS can already fetch thousands, and if it has a recognized error or unique strike, the sky is the limit. Some people may laugh at the idea of a penny worth millions, but it has happened before, and history shows that passion, rarity, and demand can create miracles in coin auctions. When we think about the market today, collectors from all around the world, not just in America, chase U.S. coins, especially pennies, because they are affordable to start with but have the potential for huge returns. Stories like the 1998 D penny worth $209 million spread like wildfire across social media, YouTube, news articles, and collector forums, inspiring everyday people to check their pocket change, their old jars of coins, and their inherited collections. People dream of finding that one coin that could change their life, the hidden treasure that could make them wealthy overnight. And while not every 1998 D cent is worth millions, the fact that even a chance exists keeps the excitement alive. The design of Lincoln on the obverse is not just an artistic choice, it is symbolic of American values, leadership, and the fight for freedom. Lincoln was the president who led the nation through its greatest crisis, the Civil War, and his presence on the most humble coin, the penny, represents humility and greatness combined. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse connects the coin to the National Monument in Washington, D.C., a place that tourists visit to honor Lincoln's memory. To hold a 1998 D cent is to hold a little piece of American heritage, and to know that it might be worth an unimaginable fortune is to realize that sometimes the smallest things in life carry the greatest stories. When you take a moment to imagine the circulation of coins in America during 1998, you realize billions of coins were minted and used in daily commerce, passing through hands in grocery stores, vending machines, gas stations, and pocket change across the entire country. Yet among this ocean of coins, some stand out not because of their utility, but because of the hidden rarity they carry. The 1998 D Lincoln cent falls right into that category. The Denver Mint that year struck more than 5 billion Lincoln cents, making it one of the highest mintages of the series. To the casual observer, this would mean the coin is common, almost too common to have any special worth, but the reality is always more nuanced. A coin's population in circulation may be huge, but finding one in pristine mint condition, untouched, uncirculated, with perfect luster and sharp strike, is a different story. Out of billions, only a handful survive in such immaculate state, and when graded by professional services as MS68 or higher, they become incredibly desirable to collectors. The law of supply and demand plays out here. The more common a coin is in general, the rarer it is to find one in superb gem quality, and that rarity fuels high prices. The 1998 D cent has another layer of intrigue because of the so-called close AM variety. In normal circulation strikes of 1998, the reverse side shows the letters A and M in America spaced apart slightly, known as wide AM. But on some error coins, the spacing between A and M is close together, a design detail that was meant for proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint. Somehow, dies intended for proofs were used in Denver to strike a limited number of circulation coins, creating the 1998 D close AM variety. Collectors hunt for these obsessively because it is not something visible to the naked eye unless you know what to look for. When you turn the coin over and examine America, you notice the difference in spacing, and suddenly an ordinary penny transforms into a rare collectible. Coins with this error can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars, and when combined with superb condition, the prices can escalate beyond imagination. Stories of people discovering close AM pennies and pocket change fuel excitement and make the 1998 D cent a legendary find. Another important aspect is the grading system. Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, assign grades to coins based on their preservation, strike, luster, and eye appeal. The scale ranges from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfection. For a 1998 D penny, a grade of MS65 is considered gem uncirculated, MS67 is superb, and MS68 or MS69 is nearly flawless, a miracle survival for a circulation strike. Such grades are rare because the minting process involves mass production, and coins suffer from bag marks, scratches, and handling damage. When one coin out of billions manages to avoid all that, it becomes an elite survivor. The market recognizes this rarity, and collectors bid aggressively to secure it. That is why auction houses sometimes see unbelievable prices. The record of a 1998 D cent reaching a value claim of over $200 million seems surreal, but in the world of numismatics, stories of astronomical prices inspire collectors to dream big. When we talk about the weight of the coin, 2.5 grams may sound trivial, but in fact it is a precise scientific measurement that tells us about the composition and authenticity of the piece. A genuine 1998 D cent should weigh 2.5 grams if it is struck on a standard copper-plated zinc planchet. However, errors sometimes occur where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime planchet or leftover copper planchets from before 1982. These wrong planchet errors change the weight of the coin, and when discovered, they become highly prized. For example, a 1998 D cent struck on a 3.1 gram copper planchet, which technically should not exist in that year, would be considered an incredible mint error worth a fortune. Similarly, off-metal errors, double strikes, clipped planchets, and broad strikes all contribute to the diversity of valuable error coins. Collectors specifically look for weight discrepancies as the first clue to such rare mint mistakes. The coin symbol, which is the D Mint mark, is more than just a letter. It represents the history of the Denver Mint, a facility that began minting coins in the early 20th century and became a powerhouse of U.S. coinage. Coins with a D have a lineage, and collectors often study how mint marks differ slightly in style across years. Sometimes even the shape of the D, its positioning, or a repunched mint mark creates a variety worth collecting. For 1998 D cents, repunched mint mark errors exist, where the D was struck more than once, slightly misaligned. These RPM varieties are cataloged and can fetch higher prices depending on rarity. So even the tiniest detail, such as a faint doubling of the mint mark, can turn an ordinary penny into a treasure. The design itself tells a story too. The obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln was based on a photograph taken by Matthew Brady, one of the most famous photographers of the 19th century. Victor David Brenner, the designer, used that photograph to sculpt Lincoln's likeness on the coin. The fact that this design lasted for more than a century, with only minor modifications, speaks to its enduring power. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959 celebrated the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Frank Gasparo, the designer, created a detailed rendition of the memorial, including the tiny seated figure of Lincoln visible inside between the columns. For coin collectors, details like this add layers of meaning, because it shows the craftsmanship and symbolism embedded in the coin. Holding a 1998 D cent connects you not just to commerce, but to the broader narrative of American history, art, and culture. Now let's consider the psychology of value. Why would someone pay millions or even hundreds of millions for a coin worth 1 cent? It comes down to rarity, demand, and prestige. Owning such a coin is not about its face value, it is about possessing something no one else has. For a wealthy collector, buying a record-breaking coin is like owning a piece of history, a status symbol, and an investment rolled into one. It is similar to how people pay hundreds of millions for paintings, rare stamps, or luxury items. The coin becomes a conversation piece, a highlight in a collection, and potentially a store of value that grows over time. Coins like the 1998 D cent, with claims of reaching $209 million in value, become legendary not just for their material worth, but for the stories that surround them. Each retelling adds to the myth, and myths drive markets as much as tangible facts. Market trends also show that small denomination coins often create the biggest excitement in numismatics. Because pennies are so common, people assume they are worthless. But when 1 penny turns out to be worth millions, it shocks everyone and reignites interest in coin collecting. This democratizes the hobby, because anyone could theoretically find a rare penny in their change. That is why YouTube videos, news articles, and social media posts about valuable pennies go viral. The 1998 D cent benefits from this phenomenon. Collectors scour their jars, rolls, and bank boxes of pennies hoping to discover that one magical coin. Dealers promote varieties like the closed AM or double dies, and grading companies publish auction records that confirm the high values. The ecosystem of hype, discovery, authentication, and sale keeps the legend alive. It is also worth reflecting on how the penny, despite being worth only 1 cent in circulation, has survived debates about its usefulness. Many argue that the penny costs more to produce than its value and should be retired. Yet sentimental attachment and collector interest keep it alive. Coins like the 1998 D cent give the penny cultural relevance, because as long as stories of million-dollar pennies exist, people will keep paying attention. The irony is that the very coin considered too small to matter economically has produced some of the biggest headlines in the collector world. The 1998 D cent, especially with the $209 million valuation story, symbolizes this paradox perfectly. The journey of a coin from minting to circulation to rare collectible is almost like a human life. Born in the Denver Mint in 1998, stamped in massive quantities, most 1998 D cents lived ordinary lives, passed from hand to hand, scratched, worn, and eventually melted down or forgotten. but a chosen few survived in pristine condition, protected from circulation, preserved in collections, or discovered later in rolls and bags. Those few became stars, their stories told in auction catalogs and news reports. The transformation from a piece of small change to $1 million artifact is a journey of chance, luck, and survival. That is what makes numismatics magical. Every coin has the potential, but only a few achieve it. Imagine standing in front of a crowd of coin enthusiasts, all waiting to see something extraordinary, something that will leave them stunned, and you bring out a small, shining 1998 D Lincoln cent, a coin so tiny, so ordinary looking, yet carrying a story that could rival the most expensive treasures of the modern age. The weight is light in your hand, only 2.5 grams, almost nothing compared to the magnitude of its value. The design is simple, the portrait of Lincoln staring forward, a design millions have seen and never thought twice about. But here, in this setting, the coin is no longer just metal, it is a legend, it is a myth, it is an artifact that collectors whisper about, claiming it has reached a market value of $209 million. To understand why this coin matters so much, we need to think about how coins capture human history. Every coin is minted in a specific time, a specific place, under specific political and economic conditions. In 1998, the United States was thriving economically, technology was advancing rapidly, and the Denver Mint was churning out billions of pennies for circulation. To most people, the penny was becoming almost useless in buying power, just a small copper-colored coin lying forgotten in pockets or car seats. Yet in that sea of billions, some coins carried quirks, some carried mistakes, and some carried perfection. And perfection or mistakes in numismatics mean opportunity, they mean rarity, they mean value. The 1998 D set became famous not because of what it was supposed to be, but because of what it accidentally became in the hands of collectors and graders who studied it carefully. When experts study coins, they analyze every single detail. The thickness of the rim, the sharpness of the strike, the way light reflects on the luster, the alignment of the dies, the microscopic doubling on letters or numbers, the mint mark's exact position. To the naked eye, a penny is just a penny, but to experts, every single detail is a clue, a signal of whether a coin is common or extraordinary. In the 1998 D cent, those who discovered the closed AM variety saw that something was off. They noticed that the A and M in America were much closer than they should have been, a telltale sign of a die mix-up at the mint. That small difference separated this coin from billions of others, turning it into a variety that collectors chase with passion. And once word spread that such coins were being sold for thousands of dollars, everyday people started pulling out their pennies and examining them closely with magnifying glasses, hoping to strike gold in the form of copper-plated zinc. But the legend did not stop there. In the world of high-value auctions, stories can take on lives of their own. Reports surfaced of an ultra-rare specimen of the 1998 D Lincoln cent that sold for an astronomical amount, creating headlines about a penny worth $209 million. Whether it was a unique error, a perfect gem of unparalleled quality, or a coin with a mysterious backstory, that valuation set the numismatic community buzzing. Suddenly, the humble 1998 D penny was no longer just a collectible. It was a cultural phenomenon. It symbolized the possibility that something so ordinary could be transformed into something priceless. Collectors often say that coins are time machines, small pieces of history frozen in metal. When you hold a 1998 D cent, you hold a piece of the late 1990s, an era of optimism, technology booms, and global change. You hold a design that had already been in circulation for decades, linking back to 1909 when the Lincoln cent was first introduced. You hold the artistry of Brenner and Gasparo, the legacy of the U.S. Mint, and the symbolism of Lincoln, a president remembered for honesty, unity, and sacrifice. And you hold the possibility of immense wealth, because hidden varieties and flawless survivors can command values beyond imagination. The psychology of collecting drives these astronomical prices. For wealthy collectors, owning something like a 1998 D cent valued at millions is not just about the coin itself, but about the exclusivity. There may only be one or two in the world of that caliber, making ownership a badge of honor, a symbol of success, and a testament to their passion. Just as people pay hundreds of millions for rare paintings by Picasso or Da Vinci, so too can they pay fortunes for coins, because coins combine artistry, history, rarity, and tangible value in a way that paintings or artifacts cannot. Coins are small, portable, and timeless, making them perfect symbols of wealth and prestige. For ordinary people, the story of a penny worth 209 million is inspiration. It makes them check their change, go through their jars, open their drawers, and search their wallets. It makes them feel that maybe, just maybe, they too could stumble upon a hidden treasure. And that feeling of hope is priceless. The 1998 D cent has become a story of possibility, of dreams hidden in everyday life. That is why YouTube videos about valuable pennies attract millions of views, why articles about rare cents go viral, and why the market for coins continues to grow year after year. The technical details also matter. The 1998 D cent is 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs 2.5 grams, and is composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin 2.5% copper plating. Its obverse shows Lincoln with the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the year 1998 alongside the D mint mark. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial with the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and 1 cent. On the surface, nothing about this description seems extraordinary. Billions of coins look just like this. But within the coin world, extraordinary does not come from the obvious, it comes from the subtle, the tiny differences, the rare conditions. That is why the close AM, the repunchment mark, the double dies, and the flawless gem grades matter so much. Each tiny variation multiplies the value, and in the right conditions, those values spiral upward into record-breaking figures. Think also about the market context. In 1998, nobody imagined that a penny from that year would one day be worth hundreds of millions. At that time, collectors were focused on older coins, key dates like the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, or the 1955 double die. Modern coins were considered common and uninteresting. But as time passes, modern coins age, they disappear from circulation, they become scarcer in pristine condition. Now, decades later, the 1998 D cent is no longer modern in the same sense. It is vintage, it is collectible. The passage of time transforms perception, and what was once ordinary becomes extraordinary. Add to that the discovery of varieties and errors, and suddenly the 1998 D cent stands among legends. Auction houses play a huge role in this transformation. When a rare 1998 D cent appears at a major auction, it is showcased in glossy catalogs, described in dramatic language, and promoted to collectors worldwide. Bidders compete, emotions rise, and prices climb. Each sale becomes part of the coin's legend. A coin that sold for thousands in one auction might sell for tens of thousands in the next, then hundreds of thousands, and with enough hype, millions. The 209 million valuation may sound extreme, but it follows the same logic of scarcity, demand, and storytelling. As long as collectors believe in the legend, the market supports it. The interesting irony is that the penny, the lowest denomination of U.S. currency, has produced some of the most expensive coins in history. The 1943 copper penny, struck in error during the steel cent year, has sold for over $1 million. The 1955 double die penny is worth tens of thousands. The 1909 SVB is a holy grail for Lincoln cent collectors. And now, the 1998 D cent joins this elite list, not for being old, but for being rare in a unique modern way. It shows that even coins from recent decades can achieve legendary status. Think for a moment about how many pennies have been produced by the United States Mint in its history. We are talking about hundreds of billions of pieces, each one small, round, light, and seemingly insignificant. The 1998 D-cent is just 1 year, and one mint among all those billions. And yet, somehow, that tiny coin, minted in the Denver facility in massive numbers, has managed to carve out a place in history and attract attention from collectors and dreamers alike. The question then becomes, what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary? The answer lies in rarity, in perfection, in error, and in the human desire to own something unique. When you study coins carefully, you realize that perfection is incredibly rare. Most coins come off the minting press with tiny flaws. A scratch, a weak strike, a dent from colliding with other coins in the bag, all of these imperfections are normal. So when a coin survives with perfect sharpness, blazing luster, and no visible marks even under magnification, it becomes almost a miracle. The grading companies recognize this miracle with grades like MS68, MS69, and the nearly impossible MS70. A 1998 D-cent that achieves such a grade is instantly elevated above billions of ordinary pennies. Collectors line up to own it, and prices soar. Errors add another layer of magic. The closed AM variety is just the beginning. Some 1998 D-cents show doubling on the letters, some show die cracks, some show repunched mint marks, and others were struck off center or on the wrong planchet. Each of these errors makes the coin more interesting, more desirable, more valuable. An off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin was misaligned in the press, can make the piece worth hundreds of times its face value. A coin struck on a foreign planchet, such as one mint for a dime or even another country's coin, becomes a spectacular rarity worth thousands or more. These mistakes are not supposed to happen, but when they do, they create legends. And legends are what drive the high prices. Collectors are storytellers. Every coin they own comes with a narrative. The 1998 D-cents narrative is one of hidden treasure, of astronomical value, of the possibility that something so ordinary could hold a secret fortune. Imagine the excitement of someone who finds one of these coins in their change. They notice something different, they research online, they learn about close AM, double dies, mint errors, and suddenly they realize they might be holding a coin worth thousands, or in the rarest case, millions. That moment of realization is priceless, and it is what keeps collectors hooked. The coin's design also adds to its legacy. Lincoln's portrait on the obverse is one of the most recognized images in American coinage. His steady gaze represents leadership, honesty, and resilience. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse connects to a real monument, a place of national memory where people gather to honor Lincoln's legacy. The small details, like the tiny statue of Lincoln visible inside the memorial, show the craftsmanship and thought put into the design. Holding a 1998 D-cent is like holding a miniature monument in your hand, a daily reminder of America's history and values. When that miniature monument also happens to be worth millions, its significance multiplies. Let us talk about the claim of $209 million in value. On the surface, it sounds unbelievable, even absurd. How can a 1-cent coin be worth as much as a skyscraper, a private jet, or a priceless painting? But in the world of collectibles, prices are driven by rarity, desire, and prestige. When a coin is unique, when only one exists in perfect condition or with a unique error, it becomes irreplaceable. For an ultra-wealthy collector, the opportunity to own something irreplaceable is worth any price. They are not just buying metal, they are buying exclusivity, status, and a piece of history. The $209 million valuation of the 1998 D-cent is a reflection of this psychology. It may not apply to every example of the coin, But for one extraordinary specimen, it becomes possible. The history of Lincoln cents proves this point. The 1943 copper cent, an error produced during World War II, when pennies were supposed to be made of steel, has sold for over $1 million. The 1955 double die cent, with its dramatic doubling on the date and inscriptions, is worth tens of thousands. The 1909 SVB cent, the first year of issue with the designer's initials, is a holy grail worth thousands in any decent grade. All of these coins started as ordinary pennies used in everyday commerce. But because of rarity, errors, and stories, they became treasures. The 1998 D cent is simply the modern continuation of this legacy, proof that even in recent times, extraordinary pennies exist. Think about how people interact with pennies in daily life. Most people ignore them, toss them in jars, leave them in tip trays, or even throw them away. The irony is that among those ignored pennies could lie a fortune. Every day, coins pass through countless hands without anyone noticing their hidden value. It is only when someone looks closely, examines the details, and recognizes the rarity that the treasure is revealed. The 1998 D cent is a reminder to pay attention, to look closely, because treasures are often hiding in plain sight. The market for such coins is global. Collectors from Asia, Europe, and beyond chase U.S. coins, especially iconic series like the Lincoln cent. The story of a penny worth $209 million spreads far beyond American borders, inspiring people everywhere to take interest. Coin dealers promote these stories, auction houses highlight them, and media outlets amplify them. Each time the story is told, the legend grows, and with it, the value. A coin is not just metal, it is a narrative asset, and the stronger the narrative, the higher the price. Even the technical composition matters to collectors. The switch from copper to zinc in 1982 created two major eras in Lincoln cents. Pre-1982 pennies are heavier, at 3.11 grams of mostly copper, while post-1982 pennies, like the 1998 D, are lighter, at 2.5 grams of zinc with copper plating. This difference makes collectors more alert, because occasionally a transitional error occurs where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet. If a 1998 D cent was somehow struck on an old copper planchet, its weight would give it away, and such an error could be worth a fortune. Collectors weigh their coins carefully, searching for these anomalies. The scale becomes a treasure hunting tool, turning a hobby into a detective mission. The idea that such a small coin can hold so much value also challenges our understanding of money itself. Money is supposed to have fixed value. A cent is a cent. A dollar is a dollar. But in reality, money as collectibles breaks these rules. A cent can be worth millions, not because of its face value, but because of what people are willing to pay for it. Value becomes subjective, based on stories, rarity, and passion. The 1998 D cent shows us that value is not fixed, it is created by belief, demand, and perception. In this way, coins become symbols of human imagination as much as they are symbols of economy. Now picture the moment when such a coin is auctioned. The room is filled with anticipation. Collectors raise their paddles, bids climb higher and higher, the auctioneer's voice grows faster, the atmosphere electric. A simple penny, sitting in a protective holder, commands millions of dollars. Cameras flash, headlines are written, and history is made. The winning bidder walks away with not just a coin, but with a legend, a piece of metal that will forever be remembered as the penny worth $209 million. That story alone ensures the coin's fame for generations to come. The 1998 D Lincoln cent is more than just a piece of metal, it is a story that connects the smallest details of minting with the grandest imaginations of collectors. Think of the countless coins that roll out of the Denver Mint presses in 1998, each one identical in design, in weight, in diameter, billions of them destined for circulation. Yet among those billions, A few carry secrets that no one notices at first. They sit quietly in change drawers, in coin rolls, in dusty jars at the back of closets. They are waiting for someone with a careful eye, someone with curiosity, to uncover their hidden identity. And when that happens, a penny suddenly transforms into something worth more than gold, more than diamonds, more than entire mansions. That transformation is what gives the 1998 D cent its legendary reputation. For those who study coins seriously, the year 1998 is especially intriguing. It is one of those years when subtle design varieties slip through unnoticed. The close AM variety is the most famous, but the story goes deeper. Proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint were meant to carry the close AM reverse, where the letters A and M in America are very close together. Circulation coins from Denver and Philadelphia were meant to have the wide AM, with a clear space between the letters. Somehow, dies meant for proofs ended up being used on circulation strikes at Denver, creating the rare close AM 1998 D cent. At first nobody noticed, because who checks the spacing of letters so precisely? But collectors with magnifying glasses and keen eyes eventually spotted it, and once they did, a new treasure hunt began. The discovery of such varieties always sends shockwaves through the collector community. Suddenly, everyone wants to check their coins. Dealers start advertising, grading companies start attributing, and the variety becomes a headline. What was once an unnoticed detail becomes the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1,000 collectible. That is the magic of numismatics. It rewards attention to detail, patience, and knowledge. The 1998 D cent is a perfect example of how a small mistake at the mint creates lifelong excitement for collectors. But beyond varieties, condition is king. A coin that has been in circulation, scratched, worn, and tarnished will never reach astronomical values. It might still be worth more than face value if it carries a rare variety, but the real money is in uncirculated, high-grade examples. The grading companies certify coins using the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. Most coins grade in the lower ranges, but a few exceptional survivors reach into the high 60s. A 1998 D cent graded MS68 read by PCGS or NGC is already a rarity, worth thousands of dollars. If such a coin also carries the close AM variety or another error, its value multiplies exponentially. In theory, the ultimate specimen, flawless and unique, could command whatever price the market is willing to pay, even reaching claims of hundreds of millions. Think about how collectors chase perfection. For them, owning a common coin is not enough. They want the best of the best, the single finest example known. Auction catalogs highlight such coins with phrases like top pop, meaning top population, the highest graded coin of its type. When a 1998 D cent becomes the top pop in MS69 or even MS70, it becomes legendary. There may only be 1 or 2 coins in that grade, making them virtually unique. The bidding wars for such coins are fierce, because collectors want to say they own the finest example in existence. For them, it is not just about money, it is about pride, prestige, and achievement. This is why astronomical valuations happen. A collector with deep pockets, someone who already owns rare art, luxury cars, and estates, may still hunger for something no one else can have. For them, the 1998 D cent in ultimate perfection becomes more valuable than material possessions because it is irreplaceable. You can always buy another car or house, but you cannot buy another unique error or top-graded coin if it is the only one. That exclusivity justifies the price. And once such a record sale is made, the story lives forever, written in numismatic history. Beyond collectors, the general public also fuels the legend. News outlets love stories about pennies worth millions. They capture attention because they mix the ordinary with the extraordinary. Everyone has pennies, but not everyone has a Rembrandt painting or a rare diamond. When people hear about a 1998 D penny worth $209 million, they cannot resist looking at their own coins. They dream, they imagine, and in that moment, the hobby of numismatics spreads further. The penny becomes more than just money, it becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that treasure might be hiding in the most unexpected places. Let us also remember that Lincoln cents are one of the longest-running coin series in the world. First issued in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, they have been minted continuously for over a century. Generations have grown up seeing Lincoln's face on the penny, making it a cultural icon. Each year carries its own mintage, its own varieties, and its own stories. The 1998 D cent is part of that long narrative, linking back to the early 20th century and stretching forward to today. When you collect a 1998 D cent, you are not just collecting a modern coin, you are participating in a tradition that spans over 100 years. Collectors also value the educational aspect. Studying a coin like the 1998 D cent teaches you about metallurgy, minting technology, design, history, and economics. You learn why the composition changed in 1982 from copper to zinc. You learn how dyes are prepared, and how small mistakes create varieties. You learn about grading standards, about how light reflects on luster, about the difference between red, red-brown, and brown designations in copper coins. You learn about the history of the Denver Mint and its role in American coinage. All of this knowledge enriches the collecting experience and makes the coin more than just an object, it becomes a teacher. Another fascinating aspect is the role of chance. The fact that a 1998 D cent could survive in pristine condition without scratches, without tarnish, without being spent countless times, is almost unbelievable. Coins are meant to circulate, to be used and worn down. Yet some survive untouched, often saved by someone who didn't even realize their importance. Maybe a bank teller kept a shiny roll, maybe a collector set aside a new coin, maybe someone simply forgot about it in a drawer. Decades later, those decisions create treasures. That element of luck makes collecting exciting, because anyone could stumble upon a fortune by chance. The 1998 D cent's journey from pocket change to multi-million-dollar artifact mirrors the journey of many great collectibles. At first ignored, then discovered by sharp eyes, then certified by experts, then elevated by auctions, and finally immortalized in stories. Each stage adds value, and each stage transforms the perception of the coin. By the time it reaches the headlines as the penny worth $209 million, it has become more than a coin, it has become a legend. In the grand scheme, the 1998 D cent shows us how value is created. Value is not just about metal content, it is about scarcity, condition, and belief. It is about the human tendency to seek rarity, to compete for ownership, to assign meaning to objects. A penny that cost less than a cent to produce can, through these forces, become worth more than entire companies. That paradox is what fascinates people, and it is why stories like the 1998 D cent continue to spread. When you hold a 1998 D cent in your hand, it might seem like nothing more than a common piece of change. Yet, if you look closer and train your eye to see the details that most people overlook, you begin to realize how much history and possibility rests in that small copper-plated disc. The obverse, with Abraham Lincoln's portrait, has been with us since 1909, and it is a design that has become more familiar to Americans than perhaps any other image on money. The reverse design in 1998 still featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been used since 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial can be seen under magnification, a subtle detail that ties the obverse and reverse together in a clever way. For most people, these design features are invisible in daily life, but to collectors, every detail is important. The size of the letters, the spacing of the words, the shape of the memorial steps, all of these can make the difference between a common coin and a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The Denver Mint, which struck the 1998 cent, has a long history of producing coins in massive numbers. Billions of coins flowed from its presses in the late 1990s, and the machinery used was highly efficient. Yet no system is perfect, and it is precisely those imperfections that fuel the dreams of collectors. Misaligned dies, double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other mint errors can turn ordinary coins into valuable oddities. Among 1998 cents, some of the most interesting errors include double dies where certain parts of the design appear doubled, broad strikes where the coin spreads beyond its normal rim, and clipped planchets where a piece of the metal blank is missing. Each error tells a story of what went wrong in the minting process, and each error creates uniqueness. In a world where billions of identical coins exist, uniqueness is priceless. The legend of a penny worth $209 million grows out of this fascination with uniqueness. Imagine a coin that combines all the right factors: an ultra-rare variety like the close AM, a pristine grade such as MS-70, a dramatic mint error that makes it one of a kind, and the attention of wealthy bidders who are willing to pay anything to own it. That combination creates a perfect storm, a situation where value becomes almost limitless. Skeptics may laugh at the idea of a penny worth more than a skyscraper, but collectors understand that in a competitive market, rarity and demand set the price, not logic. If two billionaires both decide they must own the same coin, the final hammer price can exceed any rational expectation. That is how extraordinary numbers, like $209 million, become part of the story. The emotional connection also plays a role. Lincoln is a figure of immense symbolic value in American history, representing freedom, unity, and sacrifice. Coins bearing his image carry not just economic value but cultural weight. A unique 1998 cent is not just a piece of money, it is a piece of Lincoln's legacy, a tangible link to ideals that shaped the nation. Collectors who pay extraordinary sums are not only buying metal, they are buying symbolism, history, and prestige. That deeper meaning amplifies the willingness to pay. Think of how many millions of people casually spend pennies every day without ever looking at them. A coin passes through dozens of hands in a single week, exchanged for gum, candy, or change at a gas station. It rides in pockets, falls under couch cushions, jingles in cash registers. Yet hidden among those billions could be a rare specimen that could change a person's life. That is what makes the 1998 cent so fascinating. The idea that your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, disguised as pocket change, electrifies the imagination. It is a modern treasure hunt where the treasure costs nothing more than curiosity and patience. Collectors often recall famous stories where someone discovered a rare coin by accident. A kid sorting through change for a school project, a cashier who noticed something unusual, a metal detectorist who dug up a coin from the ground. These stories are repeated in magazines and videos, and each time, they inspire new generations to look closer at their own coins. The 1998 cent is perfect for this role, because it is recent enough to still appear in circulation, but rare enough to spark dreams of riches. Every time someone pulls out a magnifying glass to check the spacing of the A and M in America, the legend grows stronger. Auction houses feed this excitement. When a rare 1998 variety or high-grade coin comes up for bidding, it is not just a sale, it is an event. The descriptions are written with flair, emphasizing the rarity, the condition, the historical importance. Bidders sit in rooms or participate online, their hearts racing as the price climbs higher and higher. Even those who cannot afford to bid watch with fascination, because they know they are witnessing history. When the final price is announced, it becomes a headline, and that headline fuels the myth of the penny worth more than mansions. The cycle continues, with every sale adding momentum. The weight of the coin itself is symbolic. At 2.5 grams, It is almost weightless in your hand, yet the value it can carry is heavier than anything you could imagine. The contrast between its physical insignificance and its potential financial worth is part of the magic. You can hold a fortune on the tip of your finger, so small you might drop it without noticing, yet so valuable it could buy entire neighborhoods. That contradiction makes the story unforgettable, because it defies common sense. To fully understand why the 1998 D cent has this mystique, you must also look at the psychology of collecting. Humans have always sought rare objects, whether seashells, gems, stamps, or coins. We love to possess what others cannot. It gives us a sense of achievement, status, and identity. Coins are especially powerful because they combine rarity with universality. Everyone uses money, everyone knows what a penny is, but not everyone knows the secrets hidden within. That blend of familiarity and mystery gives the penny a special allure. As time passes, the supply of high-grade 1998 D cents only shrinks. Coins that once existed in pristine condition become tarnished, scratched, or lost. Those that are graded and preserved in holders become part of permanent collections, unlikely to return to the market for decades. Scarcity increases naturally with time, and as new collectors enter the hobby, demand increases. This imbalance between shrinking supply and growing demand pushes values upward. That is why coins often appreciate over generations, and why today's ordinary coin can be tomorrow's multi-million-dollar prize. Imagine the story of someone finding a pristine 1998 D close AM cent in a jar of coins left by their grandparents. At first, they dismiss it as just a penny, but then they remember hearing about valuable coins online. They look closer, they research, they send it to be graded. When the result comes back as MS68 red close AM, they suddenly realize they are holding something worth a small fortune. They consign it to auction, the bids climb, and before they know it, their family penny jar has turned into life-changing wealth. Stories like these may sound like fairy tales, but they are real enough to fuel an entire industry of dreams. The 1998 D cent teaches us not to overlook the small things. It shows us that value can be hidden in plain sight, that history can rest in the palm of our hand, and that attention to detail can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. For collectors, it is not just about owning a coin, it is about the thrill of discovery, the joy of learning, and the pride of preservation. For dreamers, it is about the possibility of striking it rich from something everyone else ignores. For historians, it is about tracing the story of a nation through its money. For everyone, it is a reminder that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest meaning. And so the legend continues, whispered in collector forums, printed in magazines, and spoken in YouTube videos like this one. The 1998 D penny, a coin of almost no monetary value at birth, transformed into a symbol of hidden fortune, worth claims of $209 million, a story that captivates anyone who hears it. The next time you see a penny lying on the ground, remember that it might not just be a penny. It might be a ticket to history, a passport to wealth, and a key to the mysteries of numismatics. The 1998 D Lincoln cent continues to draw fascination because it embodies the paradox of modern money, a paradox where the most common and overlooked denomination can sometimes carry the most extraordinary stories. Think about the billions of pennies that exist in circulation, most of them worn, dirty, and nearly forgotten at the bottom of drawers and cash registers. Within that sea of copper-plated zinc lies the possibility of a single coin that defies all odds, a coin so perfect, so rare, and so desirable that its worth eclipses even the most famous treasures. That is why collectors and dreamers alike become obsessed with the idea of a penny worth $209 million, because it is the ultimate expression of possibility. The design itself, when you analyze it carefully, becomes a point of admiration. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse is not only the longest-running design in American coinage history, but it also carries the weight of symbolism. Every line etched into Lincoln's face, Every detail in his hair and jacket represents over a century of tradition. The D mint mark just beneath the date is small, but it transforms the coin into a product of the Denver Mint, tying it to a specific place in American history. Above Lincoln's head, we read the motto, "In God We Trust," words that have inspired and sparked debate but remain constant on the coin. To the left is the word, liberty, another symbol of what Lincoln fought to preserve. The date, 1998, seems unremarkable until you understand what it represents. A year when billions of coins were struck, yet within those billions, a handful may carry extraordinary differences that make them priceless. The reverse, with the Lincoln Memorial, reminds us that every cent carries architectural and cultural symbolism. At the base of the steps, hidden in tiny detail, you can see the statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, linking the obverse and reverse in a subtle yet profound way. The words, "United States of America," arch across the top. The motto, "E pluribus unum," appears above the memorial, and the denomination, 1 cent, rests at the bottom. To most people, this reverse is so familiar that it becomes invisible, but collectors know to look closer. They measure the spacing between the A and the M in America. They analyze the serifs of the letters. They examine the steps of the memorial, because small variations can separate a fortune from a common coin. The wide AM and close AM varieties are particularly famous for this reason, with the close AM examples in 1998 commanding extraordinary attention. The weight of the 1998 D cent, precisely 2.5 grams, is the result of its copper-plated zinc composition. Before 1982, cents were struck primarily in copper, weighing 3.11 grams, but as copper prices rose, the U.S. Mint switched to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. That shift changed not only the composition, but also the behavior of the coin over time, as zinc is more reactive and prone to corrosion. Collectors often prefer earlier copper cents because of their durability, yet the later zinc cents, including the 1998 D, carry their own historical significance. In pristine condition, a 1998 D cent retains its brilliant luster, shining with a reddish hue that appeals to the eye. In circulated condition, it may dull, spot, or even corrode, but even then it can carry interest if it happens to be a rare variety or error. Market value is always a product of supply and demand. For ordinary 1998 D cents, value rarely rises above face value, even in circulated rolls. But for high-grade coins certified by services such as PCGS or NGC, the story changes dramatically. An MS-68 red example might bring hundreds of dollars. An MS-69 red could reach thousands, and the rarest close AM variety can command even more. Add an extraordinary mint error into the equation, and the sky is the limit. The legendary $209 million claim exists in the realm of myth and dream, but it illustrates how far collectors' imaginations can go when rarity, condition, and demand intersect. Just like art pieces that sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, coins can transcend their material value and become symbols of wealth, history, and prestige. It is fascinating to think that such immense value can rest in something so small. A single 1998 D penny could fit unnoticed in your wallet, your pocket, or a coin jar, yet in theory it could hold enough value to buy entire neighborhoods, skyscrapers, or fleets of luxury cars. That contradiction between size and value is what makes coins magical. People have always been drawn to objects where worth is not obvious, where the extraordinary hides inside the ordinary. The 1998 D cent is a perfect example of that principle, because unless you know what to look for, it appears no different from any other penny. The journey of a single penny is also worth imagining. A coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1998 may have passed through thousands of hands in the decades since. It may have been used to buy candy, dropped into vending machines, collected as change at gas stations, saved in piggy banks, and finally tossed into a coin jar. Along the way, most pennies lose their luster and fade into obscurity. But every once in a while, one survives in perfect condition, untouched, perhaps set aside accidentally, perhaps forgotten in a bank roll, perhaps preserved by chance. Those survivors become time capsules, physical artifacts that remain as pristine as the day they left the mint. When discovered years later, they remind us of how rare perfection is and how valuable it becomes when found. The psychological allure of coins, like the 1998 D cent, cannot be overstated. Collectors are not just chasing money, they are chasing the thrill of discovery. The idea that you might find a priceless treasure in your spare change ignites the imagination. It turns everyday life into an adventure. It gives meaning to the mundane. Even if most searches end in disappointment, the possibility that the next penny could be the one keeps the hunt alive. That possibility is priceless in itself, because it fuels hope, excitement, and curiosity. The story of the 1998 D cent is therefore not just about a coin, it is about human nature. It is about our desire to seek out the rare, to possess the unique, to hold history in our hands. It is about the way we assign meaning and value to objects, and how those meanings grow over time. A coin worth $209 million is not about metal or weight, it is about story, about myth, about the way humans elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. Just as a painting of simple colors on canvas can sell for hundreds of millions, so too can a small coin if enough people decide it deserves that status. The Denver Mint itself adds another layer to the story. Located in Colorado, it has been producing coins since the early 20th century and is known for both its immense output and its share of collectible rarities. Coins with a D mint mark have their own following, and certain Denver-struck coins have become legends in numismatics. The 1998 D cent joins this tradition, not because of its sheer numbers, but because of the rare exceptions hidden within those numbers. Collectors often remind themselves that the hunt is as important as the prize. The search for the 1998 D close AM or a high-grade error coin brings people together, sparks discussions, and creates communities. Forums, clubs, YouTube channels, and social media groups all thrive on sharing discoveries, tips, and stories. A coin is small, but the culture around it is vast. That culture is what sustains the legend of the 1998 D cent, because even if most people never see one worth millions, they can all share in the hope and excitement of looking. The legend of the 1998 D cent worth $209 million might never be verified in a strict financial sense, but legends do not need verification to hold power. They need belief, they need storytelling, they need the spark of imagination. And when that imagination spreads, when millions of people hear about the possibility, the coin itself takes on a life of its own. It becomes more than metal. It becomes a myth, a dream, a symbol of possibility. So, when you next come across a penny dated 1998 with a small d under the date, do not dismiss it as worthless. Hold it up to the light, examine its details, weigh its history, and imagine the stories it could tell. For in that small coin lies a universe of meaning, a piece of art, a fragment of history, a spark of hope, and perhaps, just perhaps, a fortune beyond imagination. The 1998 D Lincoln cent continues to remind us of how human beings see value in the smallest of objects. A coin that was struck by the billions, a coin that most people dismiss without a second thought, becomes in the hands of collectors an object of reverence, analysis, and obsession. Every detail, every flaw, every potential anomaly becomes a doorway into history and into wealth. The truth is, billions of people have held pennies in their hands, but only a tiny fraction have ever looked at them closely, studied their spacing, their surfaces, their designs. The 1998 D cent demands that closer look, because hidden within its surface lies a narrative that can transform a single cent into something far greater. The incredible claim of a $209 million valuation for a single penny may sound unbelievable at first, and indeed most people would laugh at such a suggestion. But when you examine the nature of human economics, you realize that value is not inherent, it is assigned. Diamonds, for example, are common in some places, but the diamond market has elevated them into symbols of eternal love, worth thousands of dollars. A painting that may look like simple brush strokes can command hundreds of millions because of the artist's name, the story behind the work, and the demand from wealthy collectors. In the same way, a coin like the 1998 D cent can be elevated far beyond its face value because of rarity, mythology, condition, and the hunger of those who desire to own it. The weight of the coin, 2.5 grams, may seem insignificant, but it connects us to the physical reality of money. Each coin is not just an abstract unit of value, it is a tangible piece of art, design, and engineering. The thin copper plating, only about 8 microns thick, covers a zinc core, giving the coin its familiar reddish hue while protecting it from immediate corrosion. But time reveals flaws in this system, as many 1998 cents today show bubbling, spotting, or erosion. Those that survive without such flaws are rare, and those in untouched mint state are even rarer. Add in a mint error or a unique variety, and suddenly you are dealing with a 1 in a billion object, the kind of coin that headlines auctions and captures imaginations worldwide. The symbol of Lincoln on the obverse carries immense cultural weight. Abraham Lincoln, the president who held the United States together through Civil War, remains one of the most respected figures in American history. His face on the cent is more than a design, it is a reminder of resilience, unity, and sacrifice. Every time someone looks at a penny, even without thinking about it, they see Lincoln's profile, and with it they encounter history. The Denver Mint's D mint mark beneath the date roots the coin in a specific place and tradition, adding another layer of meaning. The reverse, with the Lincoln Memorial, mirrors this symbolism, showing the nation's respect for its leaders and its institutions. The inclusion of the tiny Lincoln statue inside the memorial was a stroke of genius, connecting both sides of the coin in a single narrative of continuity. History itself has shaped the coin. The Lincoln cent began in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and over the decades it became the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. By 1998, the design had been in use for nearly 90 years, and although common, it carried tradition and consistency that collectors value. The close AM variety of 1998, where the A and M in America nearly touch, was never intended for circulation, yet it appeared due to a mix-up of proof dies used on circulation strikes. That tiny difference created one of the most famous modern varieties, elevating the 1998 cent from ordinary to legendary. When we talk about coins worth millions, we are not simply speaking about metal. We are speaking about human desire, rarity, storytelling, and prestige. A collector who owns a coin like the 1998 D Close AM in the highest possible grade holds something no one else can easily obtain. That exclusivity drives value. Wealthy individuals, museums, and institutions bid against each other not just for the object, but for what the object represents: uniqueness, history, mastery. The $209 million claim might never be fully confirmed, but it reflects the possibility that in the right auction, with the right bidders, with the right story attached, a penny could indeed sell for a staggering sum. Coins like the 1998 D cent also serve as teachers. They teach us to pay attention to details. They teach us that history surrounds us in the smallest of ways. They teach us that value is not always obvious, that treasure can hide in plain sight. They also teach patience, because searching through rolls of pennies, examining dates, mint marks, and varieties is not a quick task. It is a labor of love, a practice of observation, and a reminder that persistence often leads to reward. Many great discoveries in coin collecting have come not from experts in laboratories, but from ordinary people examining their change and noticing something different. The story of the 1998 cent, therefore, belongs not only to wealthy collectors, but also to everyday dreamers. It belongs to the child who saves pennies in a jar, the cashier who notices an odd detail in change, the retiree who enjoys searching rolls as a hobby, the YouTuber who shares discoveries online, and the viewer who begins to look at coins with fresh eyes. It belongs to anyone who has ever wondered if the world hides secrets in plain view. And that is where the legend of the penny worth $209 million becomes powerful. It does not matter whether such a coin has been confirmed sold at that exact price. What matters is that the story exists, and the story inspires. It inspires millions of people to take a closer look, to dream bigger, to imagine possibilities that seem impossible. In that sense, the 1998 cent is not just a coin, it is a symbol of potential. So, as we conclude this journey, imagine once more holding a 1998 penny in your hand. Feel its light weight, look at Lincoln's portrait, flip it to see the memorial, and realize that within this tiny piece of metal lies over a century of tradition, artistry, and history. Realize that billions of others exist, but yours might just be the one that stands apart. Realize that even if your penny is not the legendary multi-million-dollar treasure, it is still part of a story that connects you to a nation, to a history, to a culture of collectors who see value where others see none. And now picture the possibility that somewhere, right now, a coin rests in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box, waiting to be discovered. A coin that could rewrite the rules of value, that could turn an ordinary life into an extraordinary story. That is the magic of the 1998 Lincoln cent. That is why people search, why people believe, why people care, because in the end, it is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery, the joy of possibility, the beauty of history, and the wonder that something so small could mean so much. And so, the legend of the 1998 penny worth $209 million will continue to live, not just in vaults and auctions, but in imaginations across the world. Perhaps one day, a single coin will surface that confirms the dream. Until then, every penny we hold is a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see it. That is the true value of the 1998 Lincoln cent. Not just the metal, not just the money, but the story it tells, the hope it sparks, and the endless possibility it represents.